to do whatever they want. So make the most noise, insult, shout, scream, distract people with songs instead of talking about the issues, distract people with bad news or slamming their opponents instead of talking about the issues. And that's what we're here to discuss about. And some other people have also decided to do everything right, stick to the straight and narrow, only talk about the issues, only discuss policy. And we're here to discuss whether or not which side has it right. I believe that you should do whatever you want in an election. Not whatever you want, but you should do whatever will engender support for you. And I think that is the central point of all politics. Politics is about gaining support. There's an interesting stat that came out of polling in America, and they found that even though about 22% of Bernie Sanders supporters will actually vote for Trump, even though like 90% of their Trump, Bernie Sanders policies are the same as Hillary Clinton's policies, but 22% of Sanders' supporters will actually vote for Trump because they don't like Hillary Clinton. There's a clip I saw online, and it was like a panel discussion with these sorts of voters, and they didn't really have a genuine reason to. They have a genuine reason to go from Bernie Sanders to Trump. They thought that Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton were exact opposites, when actually the actual opposites are Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders on one side, and Trump on the other. A lot of the time, what actually gets through to us is not necessarily facts. During Nigeria's elections, were we all discussing facts? Or were we looking at who made the biggest mistake? Well, was the Ikeja talking about the interest rates, or how exports will increase the exports, or how will reduce Nigeria's dependency on oil? No.
Opemipo has tried to sort of dance around some of the points. Now, what are we adding here? In an election, is it about winning at all costs, or is it about staying conventional, honest, or playing by the rules? What exactly is an election? It's an organized forum or a platform for people to decide who to vote for, who you want to go with. Now, research has shown that in an election, when you paint somebody as a villain and somebody as a hero, when that distinction sort of comes out in an election, people tend to react not to let the villain win, to let the villain lose, but they forget that they also need to make the hero win. For example, let's use the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump example. Donald Trump has been painted as, the villain. His campaign is surrounded by controversy, is surrounded by sensationalism. What exactly is sensationalism? It's when the media portrays things in a way to incite public excitement at the expense of the facts, at the expense of what exactly is going on. It's not about winning at all costs, it's about staying conventional, staying true to your values. If you stick to your values, if you're able to argue your point, if you're able to tell people, these are the things that I want to do, these are the things that I'm going to do for you if I'm elected into office, if you speak intelligently enough, people will stand behind you. I have a very good example. Let's bring it home to Nigeria. Abiola's election in 1993. They call it Hope 93. The amount of Nigerians that turned up to vote for Abiola was phenomenal. People stood there, I want to see you count my vote, because he stood for something that they could recognize. Now, for example, let's look at our past election with Buhari and Goodluck. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say Buhari personified the intellects, the values, but he stood for something that the people wanted. And what was that? Change. People did not want the current administration anymore. It wasn't an issue of a mind game. He was able to speak to the people. He stayed true to what he wanted to do. He said, my campaign message is this, change. He gave a message. He stayed true to his values? Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, well, I do not hold a gun to anyone's back to say vote for me or to support me, but there have been many people who were icons or who are still icons who did. Che Guevara was a rebel. Look at Malcolm X. He advocated for armed insurrection by black people. Think of Malcolm X. Think of the Black Panthers. These are all people that were instrumental in bringing either communist revolutions or bringing about civil rights movement in the direction of civil rights for black people in America. And they did that by going outside politics, by going beyond politics, if you will, by being violent, by threatening violence. And they succeeded in their goals. If you go back to these American elections, who are people that decided to stick to their points? People like Ted Cruz, even though he also went above and beyond. Think about people like Marco Rubio. Think about Jeb Bush, who turned out to be boring and no one listened to. I'm pretty sure he's happy about his values right now. So we might think that we're actually voting based on the facts, but we're actually voting based on, I like this person. Not really the facts, even though we think the facts are what we're looking at. And it's not that we're dumb, it's just that we're fallible human beings. Few words and my soldier.
I'd like to believe that your intellect is a lot more positive than mine. Now, let's quickly look at one person, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was the person who sort of stopped the apartheid in South Africa. He had a lot of people behind him. But at a point in Mandela's life, he strayed away from what he thought was right. He strayed away from his values. He got involved in Marxism. He got involved in violence. Now, what were the steps that happened after he strayed away from the things that he really stood for? He was arrested because he wanted to overthrow the government. And he was in prison for 27 years. Now let's think about it. That was 27 years of apartheid that Nelson Mandela wasted when he could have actually been making a change. So what I'm trying to say here is this. At the end of the day, if it is about winning at all costs, that win is short-lived because it will only be for a time. When you're in office, you will expose yourself for the fraud that you are, and most likely you will never get that opportunity to rule again. But if you stay by your values, if you stick to what you believe in, whether you win your first election or not, when the next time comes, people will remember and recognize that this is somebody that we should have voted for and you get a second chance.
Please let's give them a round of applause. We have the pleasure of having the presence of Honorable Ahmed Dikwola Obishore.
I'm glad to be here. I think the coup has been planned. I was made to dress like a politician to hand me.
It sometimes seems like when candidates or aspirants are positioned against each other, there is always one that seems better than the other. Is this always the case?
I want to say that politics are about power. Which I belong, we shouted change, change, change. But we identified lapses of the outgoing government or the former government, and we look at their shortcomings and play it up, magnify it, and find a video of the road to tell the people what we can do. That is politics for you. At times in politics we need to fight. Like me, I do fight at times. Because if you allow a moment that you need to fight to go past you, you might never have a room to fight again. It is negative to think that you have to go negative to achieve what you need. There are ways of appealing to subconscious minds of voters, and there are ways of telling them what they want to hear, but at times it might not be so.
Now, there was something you said that really did make sense. You said you don't have to be violent, you don't have to go the wrong way, but you can speak to the intelligence that is in the people. What a lot of our politicians in Nigeria is they don't speak to the intelligence in people. They speak to possibly the hunger, the things that do not define, what you are actually thinking about.
How can we, the public, put pressure on politicians while they're in power? And then second is that a lot of youth seem to think social media can have an effect on politics. Is that true?
Well, let me start from the last two questions. The social media has very zero effect on politics. Those who vote, they hardly look at social media. I have a friend that lost the last election. He was ferocious and every time on Facebook. Whereas his target audience are not there. And in politics again, at times that your voters, you have to look at your terrain. If it's a kitchen, and you are talking to the dissent during campaigning, on the day of the election, they will drive away the dissent. They won't be able to come, and when they hear come, bang, 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 bang. You read your color boys that will come out and vote, and that's why Fayose always have his way. Yes, you see, I think the Nigerian leaders or politicians, they really don't want to open the eyes of the public. People don't know that the power of recall is in the Constitution. That if you don't want your honorable member, even your governor, you can raise a movement, get a number of voters on the list to sign a petition that will compel him to come back home. It has never been used. The last one that was tried was Mantu or so in the Plateau. And by the time they were signing, they just saw that the thing was getting momentum. We went to the areas where they are yet to sign and started distributing money. And people were shutting their doors. And that collapsed. Secondly, the Nigerian Labour Congress, it used to be the fear of the NSC was beginning of wisdom in those days. And the media. Sorry, the media, they are here anyway, so I be careful. You see, they are not doing what they are supposed to do. Do you know that mere writing about a politician, just a little, like what Sahara is doing? Sahara is in far away America, doing what Nigerian journalists here should do. Getting facts that those who are in Nigeria are not getting. What is the matter? And you know why? The Nigerian elites, the government, the people have starved everybody. And when you, it's like that time when we were having problem with Fashola, I was assembly, we were fighting him at the house, we were speaking big grammar. Somebody calls, hey, you people, somebody's carrying a plate of food. You are carrying koboko, and the fight is getting longer. Hunger will make you drop your koboko, and it didn't happen. So they have starved the Nigerian youth, even journalists. When did they get their salary? I don't want to mention names. Some TV houses have not been paid for 8 months. I live at Adebule. I think those of us who are awake, mentally, spiritually, should not just lie low. We should come out. It's not about money after all. Money can come in between. The life of everybody is already successful. You can't come, no, don't come. But those who still find it difficult should try. Let me confess to you, I graduated in 1974 in UK, and I worked from 1974 to 2006 before I joined politics. I can tell you, I can say categorically that my 8 years in politics is better than my 33 years of advertising profession.
Thank you very much. We need to get off our seats and get out there. A lot of us youths, we just want to be on Twitter and claim we are doing something because we tweeted something. These people don't look at Twitter. They don't really care about you. And if you get twice yourself on Twitter, that's where you'll be.